But
Yeah.
I think also when you're doing it on the daily and you're inputting it as you go, then you don't forget things. Whereas obviously it's very easy to sort of go, I mean, I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I ate yesterday. So if you don't do it while you're on the go, then it is obviously open to that. But I think it's something like you're 70% more likely to lose weight if you track. Because, as I say, you are accountable then for exactly what you're eating and drinking.
Football Drop Podcast.
Hello, and we've got an FDP special. How's it going, William?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. I feel like this was probably the perfect timing one because we've just finished our first season at Man v Fat. We've got a few awards, which is amazing.
I forgot my medals. Have you got yours?
I've got mine here.
I have them
I've got
upstairs.
mine just to show off.
Well done.
I'll show it off because I'm lucky. We've got Richard from Man v Fat, the head of Man v Fat. He's here. How are you doing?
Love them. Yeah, really good. Thank you, mate. Yeah, really, really good. And glad to hear how much you guys are succeeding. Loving those medals.
Honestly, mate, it was one of those things where I think it was all by chance, wasn't it? Obviously, we sort of spoke initially, and I mean, the scheme sounds amazing. Obviously, we did the Big Losers game review. Was it this year? Yeah, it was early this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, down at Millwall.
And then met Adam, who runs the Margate Club. Really lovely guy. So massive shout out to Adam as well.
Top fella, yeah.
And then we've joined, and I think it's safe to say, and I'm sure Will will agree, I think we're pretty hooked at this point. Don't know if Will's there or if he's lost.
Yeah, sorry, I'm back now. I don't know what's going on with my internet today. Sorry. I'm having
Lost
IT
Will
issues.
at a crucial point.
I know. Sorry, I heard my name and then I thought, oh shit, I'm going to have to be expected to say something here. Sorry, what did you say?
Awkward silence, isn't it? Jesus.
I was just saying how hooked we are at Man v Fat.
Yeah.
That awkward silence of...
Yeah, so I'm embarrassed now. I feel all hot. It has been... I think I've always been all right at doing like fitness and doing like gym work. So, you know, I've always been into running. But I've always been more into eating. But I think what this has shown is actually you can still have a decent amount of food, just less of it, and then play football and lose weight and have fun. So I think it's been brilliant for me.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. But enough about us for a sec. What's been happening in the wider world of Man v Fat, Richard?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a busy year. Obviously, you guys were part of some of the events that we did. So obviously the Amazing Losers came earlier this year. We obviously had the Man v Fat Awards at the National Football Museum. This year has been 10 years of Man v Fat. So we've been trying to do a few things a little bit differently. We obviously started off the year at the Houses of Parliament doing a celebration event with some of our stakeholders, partners, coaches, Biggest Losers, staff, things like that, which was really exciting and trying to, I suppose, raise the profile really of Man v Fat. We've got a game versus the MP football team at some point early next year as well. So off the back of that, that'll be really good. We have played them before. And I would say it was a mix of MPs and people that seem quite good at football. Who seem to work in Westminster. They were good. Weirdly reffed by Dermot Gallagher.
Amazing.
That was a very unique experience. Obviously, MPs are used to getting a few tackles, so they obviously wanted a high grade ref to sort that out for them. So no, that was a lot of fun. But I mean, bigger than that, the community have been achieving incredible things. So we've got, you know, a bit like yourselves, 8,500 guys with us, losing weight every week at around 150 different Man v Fat football clubs. More recently, so last month, we launched Man v Fat Rugby. So we've got 3 Man v Fat Rugby clubs going on. We've got nearly 100 guys in those, and each club is getting pretty close to losing 100 kgs each already.
Wow.
So that's pretty awesome. And a month or so before that, we launched Man v Fat Soccer as a pilot in the States as well. So that's been really, really exciting. The Broward Club, which is just north of Miami, and Tampa Bay as well. And I mean, Man v Fat Soccer has been a real sort of eye opener for a number of reasons. Really, I think the guys that were over there aren't all footballers historically. Obviously, soccer is a sort of emerging game for men out in the US. So it's traditionally been a youth game and a women's game more so. And obviously, football doesn't always equate to what we would consider as football. So branding it up as soccer, going out, seeing what the facilities are like out there. I would say about 10% of the guys who have signed up have probably never kicked a football before in their lives, which is obviously very different to here, where almost everybody would have played at school. A lot of South American guys as well who are coming over with a lot of flair, who you can tell play the game to a good level back home and are giving it a go in Florida. And the weather as well. I mean, everybody who I think from the Man v Fat community in the UK was like, "Oh, you're gonna have a lovely time with the weather." We nearly drowned. I mean, like genuinely, we got to some of these clubs and like the roads were flooded. More recently, they obviously had the awful Hurricane Helene in Tampa Bay, and some of the guys have lost their cars, lost their homes. Very, very different climate, very, very different challenges, but still a fantastic bunch of people looking to achieve what you guys are achieving and what the rest of the Man v Fat community are achieving, which is, weight loss, better mental health and better social circles.
You've been a bit of a busy boy then.
Yeah.
Well,
that's incredible.
I do a little bit of it, mate. The team at HQ and the Man v Fat coaches, I mean, you see how hard Adam works to make sure that it's a huge success down there in Margate. Probably another pilot that we should shout out is the Man v Fat Seniors as well, which is the first of its kind, which your coach in Margate, Adam, has been really strongly behind and was his sort of conception of wanting to find a way of ensuring that guys who were over 50 were getting with the club, sticking with the club. And obviously we have a great community of guys over 50 across the UK, but actually putting them all in one league and seeing how they perform has been really interesting, and hearing some of their motivations and stuff as well. So plenty going on across the community.
Fantastic. So tell us about your trip to America then, because obviously I've seen some glimpses across socials.
It
wasn't just work, was it? You had a bit of fun.
We had a little bit of fun. So we managed to get to a couple of American sports while we were there. So myself and Terry from Man v Fat HQ. Terry's been with Man v Fat since the football inception as well. So both of us probably about 15 years service at Man v Fat combined, I think. And to get him over there and support with that was great as well. I know it was his first trip to the US. I've been fortunate enough to go a number of times. Do love my American sport. I love the American culture. I've travelled around probably 15 or so different US states prior to looking at the Man v Fat soccer stuff. I used to do a little sideline called Stadium Hoppers, which was all about basically visiting different football stadiums and NFL stadiums and tennis stadiums, all stuff around the world. So, I was fortunate enough to get out there through that. But Man v Fat Soccer had been a couple of years in the making. So obviously we'd done Soccer X, which is one of the world's biggest football conferences, some really cool experiences. Saw Louis Saha there, Juan Mata, listened to incredible talks from FIFA, Inter Miami, the Premier League, EFL. So Soccer X is a really good sort of conference to get along to if you can, because it does certainly attract sort of a lot of people from the world of both business and community in football, soccer. And I mean, we've done a lot of travelling up and down the state of Florida. Obviously, Florida is a very similar size to England, really, in terms of how long it takes for me to get to one side to the other. We chose two of obviously the most sort of populous areas and places where we'd identified that soccer was a game that people were passionate about. Obviously, in Tampa Bay, you've got the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We were fortunate enough to get along to one of their games to see what that's like. And again, very different experience, but a very cool experience. They're set up in an incredible stadium on what was an old baseball stadium on a marina, so we managed to go along to that. But also going and visiting a number of different sort of partners, pitches. Obviously, over the last couple of years, we've been trying to identify what fields would be best, and we want to try and stick to turf where we can rather than grass, because as I say, flash floods over there are very normal for about 4 or 5 months a year. The launches themselves were brilliant. We've managed to recruit 3 fantastic coaches over there, all of very different backgrounds. Guys who, when we interviewed them over Zoom, you could tell instantly that they were bought into what we were looking to achieve.
Brilliant.
I think, yeah, and the thing is that sport is quite an elitist thing over in the US, right? It's all about winning. It's all about commercialization. And sort of recreational and sport for good, I would say, is probably an underutilized market out there, and probably something that they need a lot more of. So, yeah, being able to sort of go out and offer something that guys can actually buy into from a mental health and a physical health perspective. So many of the guys were saying, we just never had an opportunity to do anything like this before. And a couple of the guys I speak to quite regularly who weren't even like football fans before this, and I know a couple of them are coming over to the UK in December and doing their own football tour, going along to like Liverpool games, City games, EFL games, trying to get a feel for what that's like. And we've even had one of our UK members actually go over to the US and join the boys at Tampa Bay for a night as well. He was on his holiday to Florida and specifically requested if he could go and join them. And really, really enjoyed that as well. So, yeah, I think there's some really cool stuff that obviously if it continues to kick off there, if we go beyond the pilot phase, I think there's some really exciting stuff that we can do across the pond as well.
Sounds amazing.
Sounds fantastic. So much going on, isn't there?
Yeah. Do you think Florida's had that was appealing because of that like sort of Inter Miami Messi impact, or was that sort of not really had anything to do with it? Or
yeah, it was definitely one of the factors. I mean, there's no doubt that there are a number of states where we feel like Man v Fat Soccer can be hugely successful, and there's a number of states where I think it would really struggle. So, to put that in a bit of context, prior to deciding that we were going to go and do Man v Fat Soccer, there was a number of things that we checked out. So how regular is it that you can get small-sided soccer facilities? They're still quite rare compared to here in the UK on a per capita type basis. How many professional soccer teams there are out there? Because obviously if you think of the size of the MLS and then you think of the size of the US, it's barely touched. But actually, when you look at USL, that's a really emerging, very similar to the EFL type of setup where they're bringing new clubs on board all the time. We looked at what the viewing figures are like, both for domestic soccer and for European football as well. And that was one of the biggest things, how many pubs are actually showing it? Because if pubs are showing it, then obviously there's an interest in the game out there. So there was a number of metrics that we looked at beyond just, obesity levels and facilities. It was, what is the interest in the game? And places like Florida, California, Texas, New York, New Jersey, Ohio to a certain degree, they are states where the game seems to really be emerging. Whereas there's a lot of other states across the US where there's definitely interest in the game, but probably not on a statewide nature like some of those ones that I just labelled.
Yeah. I did wonder if that was one of the reasons why you picked there. And how's the Man v Fat rugby going? Because I'll be honest, I have zero interest or knowledge when it comes to rugby, but I know Ben does, and sometimes I embarrass myself when I'm asking him questions. But what sort of how's that sort of been going, and how does that work? Because for my understanding, rugby's like there's lots of players and you don't have it in a similar to football when you've got 5 aside. So how kind of does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's a number of different rules that you can use in rugby. So obviously you've got union and you've got league, but you've got touch and you've got tag as well. And we do a variation of effectively of touch. So we're trying to use some rules that are fairly sort of accepted across the rugby union world, but also can be brought into from the rugby league world as well. The 3 clubs that we've got at the moment are all sort of within the Midlands patch because it's being looked after by the regional manager from the central region, a gentleman called Carl, who again has been with Manby Fat for a really long time. And we've always known that we wanted to support guys way beyond the football community. So there's a lot, as far as we're concerned, Manby Fat is for any man who wants to lose weight, ideally worldwide, right? And any man who wants support with their mental health worldwide. And there's only so many guys that we can get to through the power of football. And there's only so much we can do with a staff team of 12 to 15 staff. So rugby was the next logical choice for us in terms of a sport to go into. And we know that obviously the facilities are there. We know that there's a passion there from rugby communities. We'd had historically quite a few rugby organisations reaching out to us, whether that is small rugby clubs, more at the governing body level as well. So we've had various conversations over the last couple of years which suggested that there was some potential in it. And we felt like with it being our 10th year and with it being a time to try some pilots out, that it was really logical to do that. So, and we've got some really, really good partners. I think it's the Cheltenham Tigers, Bourneville Rugby Club. They've really bought into what we're doing. It's been really, really successful so far. As with all of these things, it's getting a critical mass. So you start the clubs off on sort of 20 to 25 guys. I think you've got something like 125 guys at Margate now, and the experience you get from being able to sort of bounce off of different people, being able to, having other guys as a sounding board for you, has more of a competitive element when you've got, 8-10 teams. That will continue to build. I think it's just making sure that those guys, they're losing weight and they're enjoying the club. So it's making sure that they go on to tell their friends and the word sort of spreads and hopefully it will, again, a bit like soccer, hopefully they will both go beyond the pilot phase into something that we see with Manby Fat Football, which is a really good network of clubs that can support guys across the UK or across the globe.
And it is more, isn't it? It is more than just kind of turning up, seeing if you've lost weight and then playing a game of football. Because what I didn't appreciate when I joined was that actually, you're put into a team who you're with for a few seasons. So you build up friendships there. Then you've got challenges that you do across the course of the week as well. So the coach sets the challenges, and then so you're either walking more if it's a step challenge, or you're going to cook something healthy if it's cooking chat, whatever that is. And then there's also the 11-a-side teams that they have at Margate, and I assume they have them in others, where you can then go and play, football kind of locally and enjoy a bit more than that one night a week, and then you get more exercise and you get build up the friendships again from some of the players in the other clubs and stuff. So actually, the feel is a lot. It's a lot different to that you would expect if you were going to like soccer sixes or something like that.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think it's because whilst there is the competitive element of your team, so everybody wants in your, you are part of the team, and I think there's a lot to be said in life for purpose, and whether that's playing for Manchester United or OB City, you feel part of that team. There's an identity there. There's a keenness and a willingness to succeed for both yourself and for others. But then you're not just part of your team, you're part of a wider club. And that club, whilst for the 28 minutes you're on the pitch, you want to win, you also want everybody else in that league to succeed. And having played sort of, soccer sixes, goals type leagues before, I definitely haven't wanted the other teams to succeed. Like Sunday League still, I don't want the other teams to succeed. But yet, when you're at Manby Fat, you genuinely are bought into everybody succeeding, and you could go down the road to some of your fellow clubs, and they would want you to succeed as well. And we have guys who, when they're on holiday in the UK, pop down to another club just to see how it works, to get ideas for each other. That sort of thing doesn't happen, I think, in general Sunday League or general small-sided competition. And seeing, on the Manby Fat Facebook community, again, seeing the enjoyment and the pleasure that people get from knowing that somebody else 200 miles away from them has hit their 15% weight loss goal, or somebody's joined with agoraphobia and they'd have previously never really left the house, or people that are, suffering with sleep apnea at the moment and have to sleep with a mask no longer have to sleep with that mask. Those are the type of things that I think people really sort of flourish in seeing.
Yeah, I think for me, I definitely underestimated how much you can get involved with the whole club itself. Obviously, I appreciate I can only speak for Margate, of course, but obviously we've had conversations for a while now, obviously about how it works beforehand, and we thought, let's just give it a go. We don't know what it's about, but the teamwork you do get there, and we went to the awards, our sort of end of season awards last week at Margate after our final game of the season, and everyone's genuinely is so supportive of everyone else. Obviously there's a bit of banter, it's a group of lads, there's always a few sort of banter comments and things like that, but when people hit their sort of 15 to 20% and they get player of the season and things like that, everyone is genuinely so happy and so excited for them, and it's just so surreal. And as you said, I never thought I'd be happy that another team have just wiped us on the pitch 8-0, but I'm buzzing for them because they still did well, but we still beat them off the pitch, and I'm like, okay, so I'm still quite happy that we won. You've got that competitive side, but they've got a win as well. You both win, but you don't care about that loss side of it either. It's such a bizarre concept for me to get my head around, and it just works so well, doesn't it?
It does, and that celebrating success thing that we were talking about, within 2 minutes of being on the call, you were both showing off your medals. And you know what, as grown men, we don't often get certificates and medals and actually genuinely feel great about them.
No.
You know what I mean? You're like, it's
Absolutely.
like adult sports day, but you're genuinely delighted. And guys, and rightly so, I mean, guys work so hard to lose 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%. And you've got, I've seen so many guys who have set up, whether it's in their man cave or in their bathroom or somewhere else, spare bedroom or whatever, set up their walls with all of their certificates, with all of their medals, and rightly so, because losing weight is tough. And we live in an obesogenic environment where everything is against us. Everything is easy to consume and eat. Everything is so easy to sit there on the weekend and have a beer and watch 29 different games of football from 50 different countries. Everything is made to want to sit in a chair and order takeaways and get delicious foods. And actually, and don't get me wrong, it is a million times more complex than that. But changing and sort of pivoting your lifestyle to being one where, you're losing weight, you're influencing the people around you as well, into hopefully healthier habits as well, both at home and at the club. That's what the certificates and the medals stand for. Not just that weight loss. It's a positive impact on mental health. It's, we've just launched the Jack platform as well. I don't know if you guys have seen the Just Ask a Question platform yet, but that's something that a lot of members are using as well. And again, another sort of really interesting thing that coaches and guys can sort of signpost to and say, look, if you are struggling a bit with anxiety or depression or money worries or whatever, gambling, all these type of things, alcohol, why not ask a question on there and sort of, there's other people going through similar things to what you are probably. So the idea is it is a very sort of holistic approach.
I think it's fantastic, all the little additions to it. It is that community side of things for me that sold it more than anything else. I had one gain throughout this season, and I was so annoyed with myself. I stormed out of the dressing room. I was so angry with myself. But I felt like it wasn't just that I'd let myself down, I'd let my teammates down. And it didn't help that I was giving it the big one in the chat, we all have to be losing weight this week. It's a big one. Let's see if we can stay on it and whatever. And I put on half a kilo or something, or 0.7 kilos, and I was absolutely livid.
That must have been the one time you've done that, though, because from what I've seen, you've pretty much lost weight almost every week, right?
Yeah, that was my one gain, but it just made it so much worse that I was so, let's say, opinionated on the fact that you have to be on it this week. And everyone was very passionate. And it was just typical. I worked my backside off, but weight fluctuates, depending on how much water you've had in the morning, what you've had for breakfast and lunch and things as well. So you have to take that into account, and, it's you losing it sustainably. Yes. And that was just my one blip, as I call it. And Since then, it was like, okay, I need to go on it. I know Will's going to take the piss out of me. Keep on talking, so he can't get one in.
I just remember Ben being like anxious because he was up a little bit one week. So he says he's only had 1 week up, right? It would have been 2, but because he went in basically with no trousers on, that he actually lost weight.
Right, I'd like to point out. So I play in goal, and I wear goalkeeping trousers. So they've got extra padding and things like that. So they do weigh a lot. I worked out they weigh 600 grams.
Trousers story, yeah,
absolutely. 600 grams they weigh. Just FYI.
Well, hey, weigh as you play, right? Weigh as you play. Then it's always relative.
I know, but I didn't want to let the team down. We needed that extra goal, so I was like, "Let's Joe what?" And I've seen some of the other lads; they literally weigh in their pants.
Yeah. And
I was like, "Wow, okay,
yeah,
this is unusual."
We've had moments where we've had to let guys know that their pants don't weigh that much, and that it's not going to make a difference, and that they very much need to keep them on, because it is that I can lose another 100 grams here. But I mean, it's. And that in itself is great. But I think also we have to sort of like, it's not all about celebrating success as well. It's knowing that this is not an easy journey. And on the way, there are going to be times where you're going to put on weight and there are going to be weeks where it's going to be more difficult. And I think if net overall you are going in the right direction and you are feeling better about yourself and you are able to do more things than you were able to do before, and you are happier within your own body, that for us is the successes. And I think if you've lost, I don't know what you guys have lost today, but if you've lost 6 or 7 kilos and you put on half a kilo 1 week, that's an incredible achievement overall. Like, don't forget that. And we do loads of stuff sort of, I suppose, the rules over the last 7 years have changed a lot to ensure that what we're celebrating is healthy behaviours. So as an example of that, you get in Man v Fat each season, if you lose a 5% milestone, you get additional goals for your team that week. You can only achieve 2 of those milestones within a given season. So obviously you could lose 15% of your body weight within a season and technically hit that third one, but we won't give you those bonus points in that season because as far as we're concerned, you may not be doing it in what is a sustainable and responsible manner. And what we want you to do is do it in a manner in which it can stay off and it doesn't become an addiction. It becomes, what is a healthy lifestyle routine.
Yeah, that addiction side, it's, I can imagine people do go a little bit to the extreme to make sure they do lose an extra kilo or so. It's not unheard of that, like for example, I wouldn't eat after like 12 o'clock because I'd still have dinner and stuff after weighing, but I just wanted to lose that extra half a kilo just to keep it off. But as
I assumed you went midday
and
not midnight.
Yeah, midday.
I don't eat after midnight anymore. So.
But that's literally only on weigh days, just to make sure. But it's one of those, as you said, like you can get addicted to it. And, people that weigh themselves every day or a couple of times a day, like from a personal stand, I don't do that. Because I think, as we said, like the fluctuation with water weight and things like that as well. But the fact that you have to track it, well, you don't have to, but you get extra goals for tracking your calories. It makes you more aware. It's just those subtle changes in your lifestyle. It makes such a difference. As you said, that sustainable weight loss side of things, it really does make a difference. Like we went in on our team, so we were a brand new team within Margate's club as well. We had a few people that had already been there a while and obviously, a few new additions like Will and myself. And they didn't even give us the option, like, no, you have to track, you do this, we get an extra goal every week. Okay, cool. It helps you do this, helps you do that. And before you know it, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't tracked today. I need to log it because I need to know where I'm at. And I'm not obsessed about it, but I like to be aware of what I'm eating and what I'm not eating then.
It becomes part of your routine, doesn't it? And I think, again, it is very, food diaries are always a really interesting one. I used to work in the NHS prior to Man v Fat, and I used to work with families and young people. So I used to do sort of childhood obesity type work, working with kids as young as 2 all the way up to 19. And food diaries was always a really interesting one because I think nowadays it's a lot easier to do it through sort of, MyFitnessPal and track exact calories and stuff like that. Whereas in the good old days of the NHS about 10 years ago, it was very much a case of like digging into somebody would put a meal down, but you wouldn't be able to work out a portion size because they couldn't take a photo of their meal at the time or those type of things. But I think also when you're doing it on the daily and you're inputting it as you go, then you don't forget things. Whereas obviously it's very easy to sort of go, I mean, I can't remember what I did yesterday, let alone what I ate yesterday. So if you don't do it while you're on the go, then it is obviously open to that. But I think it's something like you're 70% more likely to lose weight if you track. Because, as I say, you are accountable then for exactly what you're eating and drinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and then when you, on the other flip side of that, I had a weekend away this weekend where there was a bit of alcohol and some nice food consumed, and I tried to log it, and I think I got to about 3,000 calories, and I was like, oh, this is just shit. I don't want to do it anymore. But no, I've been tracking, and it's just helpful to know where you're at. So you become knowing that, like, okay, so breakfast about 500 calories, lunch another 500 calories, and then dinner about 1,000 calories, and you kind of done what you need to do. You're feeling full. If you have a run or an exercise on top of that, you're in a deficit. So great, you're probably gonna lose some weight, or be healthy. So that's kind of it for me, because we were discussing the other day about. You can get into this habit of eating about 1,000 calories a day, being really unhealthy, but not able to sustain it. So for me, that's about creating a healthy lifestyle, having it sustainable, and being there and just tracking, becoming part of that habit. And I've lost 12 kilo. I've done my 10% now. So
Nice.
looking to just continue that into next season. So I feel like I've got the habit now, so it's just about kicking on with a bit more fitness and things like that for me. So
yeah, you've
That's
smashed
awesome.
it this season.
And are you boys both going for BMI boss status, which is obviously a healthy BMI effectively? Is that where you're aiming for, or have you both got like a number or a percentage in mind, or what are you thinking?
so I want to get into the Atletico Madrid kit that I bought, because it's still a bit too tight. Actually, I need to try it on today for the podcast later. But yeah, BMI boss is definitely. So I was there a couple of years ago, and I want to get back to that and because I just feel so much better in myself. Like my knees feel better, my back feels better. Whereas when I'm heavier, it all just goes out the window. And I'm getting old now as well. So
Aren't we all, mate? Aren't we all?
Yeah, I think from my side, I'm not necessarily aiming for the sort of BMI boss or anything like that. I just want to lose weight every week still. I've got sort of numbers in my mind of what I want to be, sort of sub 100 kg and things. That would be nice. And then, sub 90, and then I can start looking at that sort of BMI boss side of things. But for me, I want to hit my 15% this season, or the season coming up. So I think I've got to lose 12 kilos, I think, or something like that, I think, for it. I lost 11.4 this season, so I think it's doable.
Nice. So that'll be 25, nearly,
what,
23, 24 overall? I mean, that's a considerable amount of weight to lose as well, mate, in terms of like the difference that will have for you, I'm sure.
Absolutely. I mean, so we had some like exercise challenge in the season, and I said I was going to do boxing. So we all had to do a different exercise or something. And I stupidly decided I'm going to put my sweatsuit on to burn an extra few calories and things. And I've found my weighted vest, and I put on the amount of weight that I'd actually lost up to that point as well.
Oh, wow.
And then took it off for a couple of rounds. And honestly, the difference it makes is just incredible. It's an eye opener. So when I've done some workouts in the gym and stuff with it on, and it's like 10, 11 kilos now. And I just think I used to carry this around normally. It really, when you have that sort of flashback moment, it really does sort of open your eyes and think,
that brings it home
actually,
a bit.
Joe, I've done well so far. I kick myself if I've only lost half a kilo or a kilo or whatever. I think, I could have done a bit better, but I know where I'm at, if that makes sense. So I think, as you said, that's sustainable. Lose a little bit every single week without fail. Then I'm doing everything right.
Nice. Might see you in an amazing losers kit next year then.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping if we don't, we just get like special guest status or something. So I thought if we just invite you on every week, Rich, and
you're more than welcome. You're more than welcome to come along to the game. You know that. Yeah, we've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline. Hopefully, so I think we're 50% there with our managers. I think we've got one already. We've got an idea of where we want the stadium. We've got an idea of where we want the awards this year. So we might have a change of scenery from Manchester to come down south. So obviously we've done it up there for I think 3 years now. So 2-3 years. So yeah, we're we might try out something a little bit different with that as well. So yeah, there's the events calendar is getting booked up. Hopefully, we'll be announcing them all at Christmas, if that goes well. So and hopefully another sort of big national tournament as well, which gets the guys together. I think we had nearly 800 guys, maybe 850 guys at Lilleshall from all across the country battling out for the Manby Fat national tournament this year, which is always great to see everyone together and integrate clubs and lots of fun stuff. Might even get one of the US teams come over for the festival. We'll see.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Yeah, I know. Knowing some of the guys over there, they would love to do it. It's obviously whether it's feasible for them, but they would only need to get a squad of 10 out of the sort of 50 guys that are out there. So we will wait and see.
Fantastic. Anything else to add from you, Will?
I was just going to ask how Colchester are getting on and whether you've been up and how that's all going. Because I like to keep sort of asking you about that because I like to see your emotions because it goes like up and down.
Yeah.
With you.
Well, do you want glass half full, Rich, or do you want glass half empty, Rich? Because I can tell you that we've won. I can tell you that we've only lost one game in 7. It's pretty good, but we've only won one game in 7, which is also also a little bit challenging. So we've depends how you want to view it. As I say, 6 draws, 1 win, unbeaten in 7 is great. I think it's coming to the end of the honeymoon period for the Cowleys, I would probably say. There was some interesting. I mean, genuinely, if you would turn around to any Colchester fan on Saturday and ask them to pick the lineup, and particularly pick the left wing back, left winger, they would have not have chosen the centre forward that was playing in that position. There's some weird stuff happening. We had a great result on Tuesday, which we were able to watch due to the new Sky Plus stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but obviously there's every EFL team is on TV like 15, 20 times this season, which is really, really good. So I was able to watch Port Vale versus Colchester at home on Tuesday night. I say at home. I was at home. Colchester were at Port Vale. And it was a real shithouse type performance, if I'm allowed to say that. It was a real Port Vale are getting a bit of momentum. The goalie's not feeling too well. Let's sit down for a while. Let's boot it into the stand as much as we can. The
dark arts, as they like to call it at the moment.
Yeah, and our centre forward, Samson Tavide, who is he's a real prospect, actually, sort of 19, 20 years old. Really strong athletic forward, needs to work on his finishing and his attitude a little bit, but he's a workhorse. He's really, really good player. But he was just, every time he got clipped, he was going down, staying down. He was getting so much stick from the Vale fans. And then obviously he scores an equaliser in the 91st minute, which was a thing of beauty. But it was like, that team, there was a guy who came on at left wing called J.K. Gordon. I think we got it from Sunderland Youth or whatever. Came on, absolutely changed the game for us on Tuesday night from 1-0 down to getting the equaliser. And I genuinely fell asleep when I was watching it in the first half. And second half he came on and livened things up a lot.
Wow.
And then on Saturday, we go and put the lineup out. He's on the bench, and you've got a guy playing left wing who's never, ever played left wing before in his career. And you just think, what are you doing? And there's been a few sort of decisions like that where our captain, a guy called Flanagan, who I think came through Milton Keynes Dons, touted to be, an absolutely brilliant centre back for us. He's got the captain's armband, and I don't know what's wrong with him, but he just, he's playing nowhere near what he should be, his ability, and yet he's still playing every week. And I think there's a few questions that. Don't get me wrong, every football fan has opinions on who should be starting, who's good, who isn't. The problem comes when everybody starts to agree with each other and you get that consensus across the terrace. That's where I think you start to have a problem. When everybody can go, why is that guy playing? Or, why are we doing this tactic? and when everyone else in the stand can see it, and you're not getting results. If you're getting results, play the goalie up front if you like. It doesn't bother me if you're winning 1-0 every week. But while that isn't working, you're always going to have that. So yeah, I mean, we're not in a relegation fight at the moment, but it's down to the fact that there's 2 teams worse than us again. So and Morecambe are in, they seem to be in one hell of a state, and we managed to give away a 3-1 lead to them a few weeks ago, and they only had 10 men. So
Wow.
yeah.
You could almost replace
Emotional
that story.
roller coaster, Will. That's probably the best way to describe it.
You could probably replace that story with Man United as well. I think it sounds like they're taking inspiration from the school of Eric Ten Hag.
Yeah, do you know what? I would imagine we all grew up at a similar. I don't want to age you guys, but I'd imagine we grew up in a similar era where basically Man United was king.
Yeah.
When you look at what that club were doing under Sir Alex and, the class of 92 and everything they used to do, and then you look at it now and it just feels in a real mess, doesn't it? But, they're probably a top 6 side, and I think United fans have got to probably accept a little bit of flux around that if they're finishing in the top 8, whilst I know they're not going to be happy. It goes back a few years ago to I don't know if you ever saw the story of Leyton Orient fans fundraising for Arsenal when Arsenal were finishing second in the Premier League every year to City, and Orient were getting relegated with the Italian ownership group. I don't know if you ever heard this story.
No.
There was it was brilliant on behalf of the Orient fans. So basically, Leyton Orient had an Italian owner who was basically taking all the money out of the club. Players weren't getting paid. Players weren't getting paid. Staff weren't getting paid. They were at the bottom of the Football League. They were getting drummed every week. The situation was dire. They thought they were going to lose the club entirely. And it was exactly the same time that Arsenal fans were fuming about Wenger, I think it was, and Wenger's last ever season. And obviously there was a lot of discontent at the Emirates, wasn't there, of sort of how bad it had been because we were 4th or 5th and never getting anywhere near the title anymore. And so Orient fans, they're probably still on YouTube, recorded a load of campaign videos of like, don't think of us. Don't worry about us. We're okay. Think about Arsenal. They're the ones really suffering, 5th in the Premier League. They've missed out on the Champions League 2 years in a row. And they may not get the title for at least another 5 years. If you can spare just £1 for the Get Wenger Out campaign, it was just a beautiful example for me of the difference between somebody who supports a club who is expected to be in Europe every year and how bad is it really compared to the prospect of people like Orient, Hereford, Stockport County maybe a few years ago, whose clubs went into administration, Phoenix clubs, all that type of thing. That for me, I am a staunch Colchester United fan, have been a season ticket for 10, 15 years. And yeah, I think putting it in context sometimes, don't get me wrong, I get to the Emirates 2 or 3 times a season. I love seeing Arsenal. I love seeing them do well, and I desperately hope that we win the league this year, and not just because Rodri's out. But I think there's still a lot to be done for making sure that those sort of grassroots football clubs are well looked after, well serviced, and aren't taken over by poor ownership groups and things like that.
Yeah, puts all into perspective, doesn't it? Hugely, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do check those. Yeah. Do check if you can find them. Share them on your socials because they're definitely worth a rewatch. Those Leyton Orient, think of the Arsenal fan campaign videos.
I'm adding that to my to-do list for later. We'll do it on later.
I'm glad you said that.
That sounds good. Yeah, we know this goes out after, so I can do it for next week, and it buys me a week still then. Get something again. Oh, amazing. I'm just conscious of time here, so I think we'll call it a day. But Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure having you back on. I know it's quite last minute as well. I just sent you a random text last week. Really appreciate you coming on.
Always good to catch up, chaps. Always good, and also so delighted for you boys in terms of what you're achieving at the moment down at Man v Fat Margate. It would be really interesting to hear if anybody else who listens to the podcast is either already involved with Man v Fat or thinking of getting involved with Man v Fat. You can obviously go on to manvfatfootball.org, and there's a sort of a find a club, and you can put in your postcode and you can check out where the nearest one to you is. But I know you've got a very, very proactive fantasy football, which I'm not doing too bad in this year. So maybe
No, you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm pleased with it. I'm
Yeah.
pleased with it. But maybe there's a weight loss season league to be done in the Football Drop podcast. See who across your listening base manages to achieve the most highest percentage points at Man v Fat, perhaps.
I would say good shout, but we just know it's going to be Ali. So he's got the little bit of a cheat code. We've got another friend who's done the pod with us. He's signed up and he's part of our team. Another one who's doing absolutely incredibly well.
Amazing.
He sort of started his weight loss journey prior to joining Man v Fat as well. So over 14 months now, he's lost just shy of 90 kilos.
Wow.
90. Honestly, he's looking incredible. You know, we give him such a shout. I think it's at 90 or 80 kilos. I may be shaming him a little bit there for numbers, but I know he's lost a hell of a lot.
Super. And do you know what? The weird thing is, so obviously we sort of keep a good eye across all of an eye across all of the clubs, and we look at the milestones now. And so many guys are achieving 20, 30, 40, even, we've had a couple of guys hit 50% of their weight loss, 50% of their original body weight lost. So they started off at like 200 kgs, they're now 100 kgs.
Amazing.
And
That's incredible. Isn't it?
You almost sort of like, even 10% of your body weight, if you're starting at say 100 kgs and you go down to 90, that's a considerable amount of weight. But yet we're seeing so many guys losing, as I say, 20, 30, 40% at the moment, that it's just incredible. And you sort of, there's the number, but then I think the human story behind it is the bit that I find most fascinating. And as part of the 10 years at Man v Fat, we did, or we're doing 10 videos. We did 5 videos at the beginning of the year. We filmed them at Wembley Stadium. They're on the Man v Fat YouTube. Check them out. But we had a guy who donated a kidney to his father, and he couldn't do that before he'd lost the weight, and that was his motivation behind joining. We had a guy who the family couldn't conceive, and then he lost the weight, didn't need to do IVF anymore because they managed to conceive naturally. We've got another 5 of those videos being filmed in a couple of weeks' time at one of the best grounds in the UK. I'm very excited to be going and doing that very soon. But again, we're going to have another 5 people's stories, and it's not the weight loss, it's the story, it's the impact it's had on their relationships, the things they've been able to do, the things they no longer have to worry about. Those are the bits for me that it doesn't matter what number it is, as long as you've achieved those things. And they're the things that I think we'd love to box up and share with the community more.
Fantastic. That's probably the most perfect way to end.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Awesome. Great to catch up, gents. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Rich. Thanks for listening, guys.